last week. And it just seems like there's a convergence of winter holidays this time of the year in almost every spiritual tradition. And as we said last week, there is a thread, a commonality that runs through all of these winter holidays and these winter celebrations. Have you ever wondered why it is that in Science of Mind, we talk a lot about other traditions? We talk a lot about Buddhism, Hinduism, all of the many traditions that they're going on all over the globe all the time. I remember when I first stepped into Science of Mind, I always wondered, why are we doing a Zen Buddhist meditation? What's this about? Why aren't we just focusing on our tradition, on metaphysics and science of mind? It was a quandary. And then, after I started studying and really understood what the principles and the practices are, I got it. One of our most basic and fundamental spiritual principles is that of oneness. Ernest Holmes, our founder, spoke of it often. And when we did our Bridges of Understanding lecture series, those of us that attended the majority of the lectures realized and recognized that the one main commonality of all of the traditions was that of oneness. So oneness is in and through all of these celebrations and all of these traditions. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there is this kind of pervading error thinking or misthinking, if you will, that runs through our collective consciousness. And it says that different is somehow dangerous, especially in this time of our history. There's a common thought that different is somehow dangerous. And I believe that as we step into honoring and recognizing the many different paths and ways of understanding and experiencing the presence and the power of the God that is within us and all around us, we are actively practicing the spiritual principle of oneness. And the idea of otherness falls away. And I like that about Centers for Spiritual Living, that we honor and recognize that there are as many ways to experience and engage with this divine power that is within us as there are people on the planet. And that while there are many paths, there is only one destination. And as we understand and honor and respect the different faith traditions of the world, we step into a greater understanding of our oneness with all faiths and with all traditions and with all people. And that's what we're about as, I was going to say religious scientists, but as people who practice the science of mind philosophy. Religious scientist is an old term that sometimes we still use. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, spoke about oneness often, as I said, and one of his more emphatic quotes, I'm going to share with you, I've shared it before, but I love this quote. He leaves no question that oneness is important to him. One spirit, one mind, one substance, one law, but many ideas. One power, but many ways of using it. One God, in whom we all live, and one law, which we all use. I like this part. One. No greater unity can be conceived than that which is already given. We are one. We are one in everything we do. So from a Science of Mind perspective, these winter holidays are at a point of time when, in a variety of ways, all of the different spiritual traditions are celebrating the beginning of the creative process. You know, I'm sure everyone sitting in this room is familiar with the Science of Mind teaching symbol. This is not going to be new for you. And at the beginning of the creative process, I'll explain the arrow in a minute. At the very beginning of the creative process, there is a moment and as if life is taking a deep breath. And we move into a sense of rest and, actually it's reflection and rest and renewal and restoration. It's the beginning of that ever so fundamental process that we talk about all the time. In the teaching symbol, on the outside is the circle, and as you know, it represents the allness and the all-encompassing nature of God. Sometimes when I look at the circle, I think, the circle is a great representation of how difficult it is to actually articulate this all-encompassing infinite nature, because it even looks as if it's separate from everything outside itself. But let's just go with it. There is no broken line, no beginning, no end. It is an all-encompassing. Nothing happens outside the circumference, the activity of the divine, even though it looks like it could be. And so then we move into the way that we look at the creative process. One of our old tried and true metaphors is the seed, soil, and plant metaphor, which I'm sure by now we're all familiar with, but we can always dive a little deeper into understanding it. In this very beginning part, up at the top there where it says seed, this is the part, this is the time, this is the time and space that we are in this creative cycle of nature right now, when everything is resting, when everything goes within to reflect and to rest and to be restored and renewed so that it may be reborn and burst into spring, into newness. And this is the first and foremost part of the creative process. Here we are in the seed. And the seed, we can gather the seeds from many places. We can gather the seeds that we plant from our past experiences, from the way we were programmed in our youth and our cultural orientation, or we can go to the greater seed store that is available to us within the infinite mind of God, where all possibility and potential reside. It's up to us where we gather our seeds. Last week, we talked a lot about reflection. We did the fear to faith process. We moved into a sense of reflection about what it is that we have already created in our lives. What have we already experienced? And are we happy with the seeds that we planted before? Or do we want to gather new seeds, discard the old ones, and move on to something new? We moved into a sense of forgiveness. We practiced forgiveness. And forgiveness is really just a process by which we recognize our own personal freedom, that we're always at choice, and that we can unbind ourselves by choosing new seeds and by deciding, making a firm decision that we want to move into a new way of being by planting a new seed. So forgiveness is a way of unconstricting the kink in the hose, by letting go of whatever it is that's blocking the full path of our flow of good. There's this cute little story. I was going to share it last week, but I ran out of time, so I'll share it today. So there's a story, and I'm just going to give you the abbreviated version. There's a story about a little boy who got into his mother's cabinet and had this antique vase that was her grandmother's. And he stuck his hand in it, he couldn't get it out. And so he comes to his mother, "Oh my gosh, Mom, I can't get my hand out of here." And she tries and tries and tries to get his hand out. She finally gives up and calls the dad in. The dad tries and tries. He does soap, he does oil, he can't get the hand out. And they're just about ready to break the vase, even though the mom doesn't want him to because it's a precious heirloom for her. And the dad says, "Man, I'd give 20 bucks if I could figure out how to get his hand out of the vase." So all of a sudden they hear this clink, and he pulls his hand out of the vase. Turns out there was a quarter in the bottom of that vase, and he was hanging on to it with his fist, and he was unwilling to let it go so that he could get his hand out and experience the freedom of his hand. So here's my question to you. What are you hanging on to? What's your quarter? What is it that you're hanging on to that you have, until this moment, been unwilling to let go of? We examined that in great depth last week in our Fear as we said in the workshop, forgiveness is never a once and done. Everything always comes back around. We get to look at it and decide, is this the seed that I want to replant and harvest in the coming year? A lot of times it's not. Is this the seed that I want to plant that from my previous experience, from my perception of injury or some event or that someone did me wrong? Or am I willing at this moment to take a higher view and to look at it from the perspective of my own growth? Because honestly, whatever it is that we're perceiving was done wrong to us is what is victimizing us. It's only our perception of the situation or whatever it is. So, let's see. I was saying earlier that I'm a little tired today because I've had a really busy week. So give me a lot of energy. Right? And I'll send it back to you as well. So, one of the winter holidays that we celebrate this time of year is the winter solstice, which happens on December 21st, which really for me kind of reinforces this idea of rest, reflection, renewal, choosing new seeds, starting the whole process again. It's an ancient tradition. It has been going on for thousands of years. The ancients used the word Yule, which was a Norse word that came from the word Jule, J-U-L, which means wheel, which is a continuation of the cycle. And the ancients believed that in this, at this point in time, when the days are the shortest and the nights are the longest, that the sun and the moon actually stood still in the sky. Just like we teach in Science of Mind and in this creative process, that there is a pause between the cause we set, the seed we plant, and the harvest or the plant. There is this time of inner reflection, of nurturing that seed we plant, of being in it, of just deep rest and silence. Sometimes that's a hard step for me. Anybody? I always want to jump ahead, as a matter of fact. So I had a really interesting way of I'm kind of off the solstice thing, I'll come back to it because this just popped into my head. So recently I've been binge watching the Great British Bake Off or Baking Contest or whatever it is on Netflix. I love that show. So I've been binge watching it, and one of the things that I noticed in all of the episodes where they're making pastry is they wrap it up all nice and neatly in cellophane and they put it in the refrigerator and they let it rest. Well, I've been baking for 50 years and I've always skipped over that step thinking, oh, that's a waste of time. Why do we need to make it rest? But this Thanksgiving, I was not cooking the whole meal. I was just making the pies. And so I thought, you know what? Since I've been binge watching the show, I'm going to try it. So I made all my ingredients, put them together, wrapped them in foil, put them in the fridge, and I let them rest. I made the best pie crust I have ever made in my life. Everybody was like, wow, this pie crust is amazing. Even my husband, who's a little finicky, loved it. So what I learned is that there is purpose and meaning is part of the creative cycle that we take this time, that we are drawn into in the natural world all around us, that is evidenced for us that we rest. We rest, we reflect, we decide what it is we want to plant to be reborn in us as we move into the new year. That's what we do. And the solstice teaches us that if we want to move forward, we have to let the past go. That from this moment on, the journey begins anew. And just like I said, for us, when we view the natural world around us, it takes an entire year for the cycle to happen. But within us, it's happening in every fresh moment. We are always at choice about starting again and deciding what seeds we want to choose to replant. I really like that idea of renewal and rest. studied or heard about or learned about has a Sabbath. In the beginning of Genesis, God rested on the seventh day. There is purpose for this. And this is a hard lesson for me because I always want to be doing something and being active. But when in reality, my pie crust needs to rest. I need to let it sit. Do you know why pie crust needs to rest? I don't. But it worked. So I think that's our souls need to rest, to reflect on our journey as we move forward. It's just a powerful thing to do. So last week we talked about sorting through our seeds and reflecting on what seeds we've been planting and whether or not we want to plant them again. And then we plant our seeds, but when we sort through them and discard what we don't want to plant, we plant them in the fertile soil, in the fertile, wonderful, juicy soil of the subjective mind. And then they become plants. We don't even have to think about the process of how that works. It's almost this mysterious, hello, are you coming in? That's okay. Yeah, all right, come on in. It's okay. And then we get the plant. So Wayne Mueller, who's one of my favorite authors, he wrote a book called The Sabbath. And he wrote this about rest, and I read it and I thought, wow, that is really true for us as religious scientists. When we rest, we can relish the seasons of a moment because the creative process is happening within us in every moment. A contact and withdrawal of giving and receiving, of coming close and pulling away and returning, to surrender to the rhythms of seasons and flowerings and dormancies is to savor the secret of life, to experience the entire cycle, to actually give ourselves to this thing, this process that is much larger than we are, that we are a part of, that we are always participating in. I really love this idea. So the other holiday that I want to mention briefly is called Rohatsu. Oh, you know what? Before I go on to Rohatsu, I wanted to say, well, I'll just leave this up as I speak about it. Rohatsu is a Japanese Buddhist celebration. The word Rohatsu actually means December 8th in Japanese. And it's actually a week-long holiday. It begins on December 1st and it ends on December 8th. And Rohatsu means December 8th. Have you noticed that a lot of the winter holidays go over a week? Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Rohatsu. They travel over a period of time in their cycle, just like the creative cycle. So Rohatsu is a honoring, a recognition, a celebration of the morning that the Buddha is said to have awakened or become enlightened. It's actually sometimes called Bodhi, which means awake or awaken. The Buddha means the awakened one. And as a religious scientist and as looking at how does metaphysics play through this idea of the awakened one, I'm curious about, and I want to ask myself, what is it that the Buddha was awakened to? What did he awaken to? What was that that revelation or that coming to, if you will, that he experienced? And as a science of mind teacher and practitioner, I know that it is the absolute, that it is what Ernest Holmes called the thing itself. It is the infinite reality of being that he awakened to. Have you ever had a really bad dream? One of those weird dreams where you can't do something, you keep trying to do it, and you just can't make it happen. It feels confusing, and you feel out of control. The one that I have that recurs for me all the time is I'm trying to make a phone call, and I can't seem to get the number right, and I'll try over and over and over. Have you ever had that happen? Have you ever had those out of control dreams where you're naked, or some weird thing happens, and you just can't seem to make it right, and you feel really out of control and confused? For me, it's that telephone thing. And then I'll enlightened out of the confusion and out of the feeling of powerlessness. This must be a very good example of how the Buddha felt when he woke up out of the dream of the physical reality into a greater truth. We too can awaken to the reality of that greater truth. This is what Science of Mind calls us to do. This is what this time of year calls us to do, to reflect on what it is we have believed to this point in our life. What seeds have we been planting? Where are we getting them? Are we getting them from old programming and the collective consciousness, which is so filled with lack and limitation and not enoughness and otherness? Or are we going to that place where we are awakened to see the brilliance of that grand seed store that contains within it every possibility and every potential that we could ever want to do? To be in that sense of richness, of the flow of life, to recognize that just as the natural world is in cycle and in flux this time of year, so are we. And that we can use the natural world as an example, as a pattern for our individual lives, to pause, to honor that moment of rest, to honor the moment between the cause and the effect, to stay deep in the reality of our own being and the richness that is already there. So I'm going to invite you this week to continue to reflect on what it is you've planted to date. And do you like it? Or do you want to practice or plant something new? Do you want to move into a new being, into a new atmosphere? Oh, one thing I do want to say before we end. You know, for me, when I'm in that place where, I don't know if it's the same place that the Buddha was awakened, but it's my version of it anyway. For me, that is not necessarily an idea, it is a resonance or a vibration. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the way that emotions and states of being have a vibration. That guilt, shame, fear way down here, love, peace, gratitude are up in the high realms of vibration. For me, when I am in that place where I am in touch with the grand reality of life, where there is the potential and the possibility for anything, I am in that resonance. It is not necessarily something that I can articulate, but an atmosphere of being that I bring with me and then let it infuse my life, just like the Indian women weave the jasmine flowers in their hair and then they emanate that fragrance their entire day. So we, through our spiritual practice, our committed, dedicated spiritual practice, move into that vibration of being and allow that to infuse our lives. Those are the seeds by which we can plant our new reality and move into a greater good, to stand in the full flow of what we've come here to be and what this time of year has to teach us about introspection, rest, restorative rest, and a new way of being. As the sun reaches its lowest moment, it then begins to rise again and make its journey into the fullness of light, into the fullness of its being. And we can do that in every moment of our lives. I invite you to play with that idea. So let's pray. Oh, let's take a nice deep centered breath in. I know that God is absolutely all there is. There is nothing else. As the Buddha was awakened into the recognition of the all that is, he realized that God is all that's going on, nothing else. It's all God. And we are all living, moving, and having our experience within the circumference and the activity of this oneness, this one life. And I know that each and every person that is in this room is within the activity of that one life, no matter how we choose to express it, and we are always at choice. So I speak my word for and about each and every person that is that there is a new way of being, a reflection and a rest and a restoration and a rebirth, a renewal into the awakening that we are one with God. We can be nothing else. And in that oneness, there is a flow of good that we are open to, that has no end. It just keeps coming. It moves into every possible area of our life, our divine, loving relationships, our healthy bodies, our work in the world, our finances, our time. It enriches every area of our life. And as we unstick one area of our life, they are all affected, for there is full flow in every part of God. So I just rest in this new way of being, this new atmosphere and vibration of thinking, being, feeling, and living, and moving in the world. I rest in it. I know that as I move within, in the silence, in the calm, and in the peace, and listen, I am fed by this divine flow, as we all are, or we are one. So it is in great gratitude, this generative gratitude that moves through us and motivates, inspires, and creates that momentum for good to come into our lives. I just say thank you for this. I allow it to be. I rest in it. I know that I have done my work. I have planted my seed. I let it go. I let God do God's work. And we signify our agreement by saying together, and so it is.